Welcome, welcome everyone that came in tonight. We appreciate you being here. My name is Nancy Wallace-Laabs, and I'm joined tonight by, who am
Kelcie
I
Leka.
joined? Kelcie Leka. Kelcie and I are mother-daughter. I know you probably thought we were sisters, right? And our company is called Money Making Mamas, and we partner with Foreclosures Daily to bring you these webinars, but we also have been longtime clients of Foreclosures Daily. So the reason I do these webinars is to kind of just, show you how you can use the different leads that they have. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is how to monetize every lead, because sometimes when you get a lead, if you're buying it, if it's not fit into your wheel well, or your realtor, it's not a listing, but how can you make money off it? Because you're paying for the leads, right? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is how to build income streams through referrals and partnerships. So without further ado, let's get started. Top of the morning to y'all. Happy St. Patty's Day. So foreclosuresdaily.com is a nationwide real estate lead partner, a lead list company. They have leads for every state, and they connect investors, realtors, attorneys, and first-time buyers with high-quality leads. And I can say that because I've been using them since 2018. They're an industry leader and they've been in business since 2004. So they're not just some fly-by-night company. They've become the internet's top destination for detailed, timely real estate information. And it's really expertise that you can trust. They bring in people like me and we have speakers. Last month we had Al Nicoletti. He was really great. He's an attorney in Florida that handles probate. So they have a commitment to excellence that ensures that you receive not only the most accurate and up-to-date data, but also that you have resources to help you be successful. So how are they different as a company? Well, there's an advantage with Foreclosures Daily. So their leads are focused on real estate. I personally have used other companies and paid for the leads only to find out they have everything but real estate. They have coins, they have art, they have guns, they have sometimes nothing. And I'm been wasting my time talking to sellers that have no real estate, right? Depending on the type of leads you get, they'll give them to you weekly, daily, monthly. So for me on the pre-probate, I get every Wednesday, I download my lead list for the counties that I work. There you have property appraisal insight, meaning that part of the information that you get is the value of the property. So that's a really good tool, because then you could segment how you want to market. If you're a luxury realtor and you want to look for high-end real estate, that's a good way to target properties that are like $500,000 and up, or a million or whatnot. Or if you're like me and you like to buy under $250,000, so you can have a different marketing strategy based on the price point of the property. They are specialized for real estate. Like I said, unlike other companies, their data is farmed exclusively for the real estate market. And they prioritize delivering up-to-date targeted information to keep you ahead of the game. Now, if you've never been on one of these webinars, or maybe you're very familiar, or maybe you've just only bought, one type of lead. So you've got your probate leads, you've got your absentee owners, distressed, evictions, auctions, list pen, cash buyer, tax lates, inheritance, code violations, divorce, pre-probate. And there's a marketing strategy behind every single one of those leads. Yes, you could just get all the leads and just send out a generic postcard or letter or whatever, but you're going to be way more effective if you know how to target exactly, whether it's divorce or probate or pre-probate, code violations. They all have kind of a little nuance to the way you want to market to them. So the income potential, you've already paid for your leads. I think I think my thing went too fast. Hold on. Yes, it did. Oh, we went to the end. No, 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 no. Back up. Okay, Stephen, you're going to have to, I'll pause so you can, I don't know why it jumped to the very end there. And no, I have not. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it jumped ahead so much. I think I had this problem last night. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So these are the type of leads that Foreclosures Daily that you can purchase from them. Now let's talk a little bit about pricing, or not, because what you'll want to do is reach out to one of the representatives with foreclosuresdaily.com, because they just had a big, if you're on their email list, they just had a big blast about the St. Patty's Day sale, right? They'll have end of year sales. So depending on what time of year you're purchasing, or the volume that you're purchasing, or the type of lead, so the pricing could be different across the board. So you really want to, we used to put in here, it's this, that, and the other, but, then we said, well, you know what if they're only doing 1 or 2 counties, or what if they're doing 5, because it's kind of one of those things, like the more counties that you purchase, the bigger discount that you get. So they bundle the data based on what you need, what you're wanting to market to. So, and then it's also based on like the size of the county. So for example, we always talk about, LA County has huge population. So, and you look at that against maybe someplace in Tennessee. So, LA County is going to have almost 9.7 million people, where, Davidson County only has 640. So for me, like when I do the pre-probate, I'm going to get more leads from LA, just because percentage wise, there's more people there, more people passing away versus, in Tennessee. So, like I look at outlying counties, like in smaller towns. So I might do 3 or 4 of those, because they're not going to have as many leads. So you can do more area, if you will. So your marketing dollars are vital to the success at foreclosuresdaily.com, and they will work with you on your budget. So you tell them, hey, this is how much I'm looking to spend. What can I get? And then those professionals, the representatives, will help you kind of, customize a package that's built just for you. So you do want to reach out to your Foreclosures Daily representative and get your customized pricing package. And then there's always a special if you like attend the webinar and you say, hey, I just saw Nancy on the webinar, right? So do that as well. Now, in addition to the leads, they're not just a company that's going to sell you leads and say bye-bye. They want you to be successful. I want you to be successful, right? That's why we do these webinars. So you're going to get a toolbox with all kinds of goodies in there to help you be successful. So there's a mailing campaign. There's ready-to-use phone scripts. Pre-designed postcards, email templates if you want to do a marketing campaign to attorneys, like, a follow-up strategy. And then you get these tools, these resources to help you really know how to market to the leads and get the biggest bang for the buck. Now, who am I and why am I here? Why is Kelcie here? Well, we are a mother-daughter team. I've been investing in single-family homes since 2006. And Kelcie joined in about, a couple of years ago. She left her corporate job. So we really talk about how do we help women transition from their corporate roles into real estate investing. You don't have to quit your job. You can do it with one property. We have expertise in working with distressed sellers, because I'm looking for off-market properties. So I'm, kind of looking for people who are going through some kind of life transition, whether that's death or divorce or some financial problems that they need help with. And we built how we do things on one investment property at a time. So we have simple investment strategies, and you can always connect with us. We do have a podcast, the Money Makin Mamas show, and we also have a YouTube channel. So check us out. So what we like to do with these webinars is put the power of Foreclosures Daily into action, like, some takeaways that you'll have at the end of this. So Foreclosures Daily gives you the leads, but leads aren't going to make you money. You have to take action. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We'll show you how to work them to find opportunities. So tonight we're going to be talking about not just marketing to the leads when you get the phone ringing, but also when the phone rings, and if it's a lead that doesn't really fit your buy box, how can you make money off of that? And that's what we're going to be talking about. So the lead problem that most investors have is not that they don't have leads, right? It's usually they don't know what to do when they get the lead. So they have kind of a narrow, investors and realtors have kind of a narrow filter. Like a realtor will look at just, okay, I want to be able to list properties, and an investor says, I want to find cash flowing, I want to flip, right? And if a lead doesn't fit their exact buy box, they just throw it away, right? They just leave it, and it's like leaving money on the table. So that means dozens of potentially profitable opportunities are thrown in the trash every single week. So let me just give you an example of this. So I market to 7 different counties here. I'm in the DFW area, and with all the counties that I do, so I, on average, about every week, get anywhere from 350 to 500 leads a week, right? A week. Now, do I market to all of those leads? No, I do not. I go through, and if you've watched one of my other webinars, I talk about how I segment the list, because I am not a listing agent. I am a real estate broker, but I don't list properties and I don't buy high-end properties, right? So my buy box is like, if as an investor, it's between, 250,000 and less. That's my buy area. Now, what happens if I find a house, or I get a call from a seller, and let's say that their house is worth $700,000, and it just, on the spreadsheet I used, I accidentally did 70,000 or something like that. So and they want to list it, and they want me to help them sell it, and I'm going to go, oh no, I don't do that. No, 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 no. So I have a partnership with a realtor that I do that, and I get a referral fee. So it's like, the hidden reality is that the ignored leads often become deals for someone else without you seeing a single dollar. So we're going to be talking about how can you take those leads that you're getting, you're paying for them, and how can you, generate income from them. So the first thing is, I guess we're going to talk about the truth about real estate leads. So every lead that you work, whether from the foreclosure list, probate record, tax delinquent, will eventually resolve into one of 3 outcomes. Okay, there'll be professional investors who understand how to earn income from all 3 and not just the first one. So outcome 1, you actually buy the property. This is the deal you close, you rehab, you fund, or the rental you've added to your portfolio. Outcome 2, someone else buys it, another investor, an agent, or cash buyer closes the deal, but you made the connection and you earned a referral or a split, right? And outcome 3 could be that the property sells later, the timing just didn't work out now, but your relationship and follow-up system keeps you in position to benefit down the road. Now, if you've heard me talk before, like I said, I do the pre-probate, and those usually have a longer timeline, right? And there's a way I need to keep up with them. And I literally have had people call me 1 year, almost 2 years after my first initial call, because they just weren't ready, right? Now, I have a system where I keep in touch with them, whether that's through email or mail. It depends on, how I got their contact information. And I keep in front of them, right? So that when they're ready to sell, they're like, oh yeah, I want to talk to her, right? Now, where do most leads come from? Well, okay, I think Foreclosures Daily would probably back me up. Joe, if you're on here, say yes. So foreclosures, like everybody who's new to real estate investing and they take a class, or they, sign up for a program or go to a 3-day workshop, foreclosures are the target because they're like the low-hanging fruit, right? I mean, the generally 99% of the people that are going through foreclosure have to do something with the house unless it's going to be foreclosed on. So properties in pre-foreclosure, active foreclosures, those are very motivated sellers with real urgency to act, right? So these are considered the gold mine list, right? What you're trying to do is find off-market properties. I know some people go off of the MLS. I find that you have to kind of work off-market leads here. And then there's probate and pre-probate. So probate and pre-probate, I think, are even more gold because you have to have a little bit more skill. So, and pre-probate has a little bit less competition because you're literally dealing with people that they just passed away like in the last 2 weeks, right? Now, I did check with Foreclosures Daily, and I said, because in Texas, we can buy and sell properties and we can avoid probate in some circumstances. There's a process and all that. But let's say for Florida, every single property has to go through probate. But does that mean that you have to wait until you actually get the probate lead? No. Because if you got the pre-probate list, even in Florida, knowing that the property does have to go through probate, you could still be kind of, talking with the family and kind of getting yourself in there to see if you can help them, knowing that, they're going to have to go through probate, maybe they're going to sell it, but you could have a listing agreement lined up, you could have a buyer lined up. So there's a lot of things you could do pre-probate, right? And then tax delinquent lists are good. Now here in Texas, they're not so good because there's a right of redemption, like 2 years, and I don't know if that's how it is everywhere. But let's say I bought a property off of the tax delinquent list. Here, people have up to 2 years to go back and pay their back property taxes, and they can get their property back. So, you don't want to flip those. You don't want to flip those properties. You have to like basically rent them or do something so that like after 2 years you get to keep the property. And then investor databases. There's lists of active buyers, rehabbers, landlords who are always searching for their next deal. So I'm just going to give you a little clue, a little tip here. So if you were to go on, I haven't done it in a while, but section8.com, right? And that will give you a list of landlords, a list of properties, and you can literally have the landlord list, right? Or let's say that you did find a property and you weren't sure like what to do with it, and you could contact a more experienced investor and say, hey, what do you think about this property? I will even do that, even though I have experience. If it's in an area that, I'm not going to be able to drive to, like I have one that just came in today. It's an hour from my house. So I'm already partnering with somebody so that, because they live on that side of town or whatever. So we're going to partner on it because I would rather make, 50% of something than zero of nothing, right? So, so it's good to know and networking and building those lists. Now, why do most leads don't become your deal? So, Kelcie, I'm gonna are you still there? I know you got your children in the background, so I'm gonna
I am.
Okay. So now you and I have talked about this all the time because we get calls all the time from people, and so I had a situation where we had we thought we were getting a property under contract, and then the seller came back and they wanted like 20 grand more, right? So that's not going to work for me. So what ended up happening was, I just said, okay, well, we need to list your property. And so then I have a partnership with different realtors. Now, I don't put everything in writing, but I've kind of like gone to the point where now if we're going to do those kinds of things, I want to get it in writing because a lot of things, in real estate kind of go back and forth. So Kelcie gets to hear about all of this. And when we think we have a deal and they're like, what happened there, right? Or it's
Mm-hmm.
just in the wrong geography. So we have properties. Okay, remember I told you that we do all these counties. We do all these little tiny counties. But sometimes I'll get a call from somebody that has property out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what to do with it. I mean, and it's not really that the land is worth anything. And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of driving. And, that just doesn't appeal to me, right? But I have investor lists that, or I have a list of people that I know will want to buy, out in the boondocks or whatever. Maybe they want their own homestead or something. So, and then maybe there's a condition mismatch because where I'm at and where Kelcie's at in our lives, doing a full rehab, does that appeal to you, Kelcie? Doing a
No,
full rehab?
no.
Yeah. I mean, because you have two little ones, and so time is money. And
Yes.
so, sometimes her and I just have a hard time just getting together to do our podcast, let
Mm-hmm.
alone
Yep.
doing a rehab that's going to take 2 or 3 months. But, that doesn't mean we couldn't partner with somebody. So we bring the deal, they bring the labor, I can oversee it. And then seller price expectations. The seller wants retail or near retail pricing, and that doesn't leave any room for a wholesale or rehab margin. So sometimes those properties have to be listed. So what I'm saying here is that if you are a realtor, you could list the property or you could partner with somebody who will list it for you and then you get a referral fee or you can work it out a whole bunch of different ways. So I know a lot of wholesalers as well. So if I have a property and I know that I can get it, I negotiate the price down and I'm not going to buy it, but I know that they have a huge buyers list. So I can like partner with a wholesaler and say, hey, I have this property, find a buyer for me. And then we both get paid. Or sometimes the timeline doesn't work and the seller's timeline and my ability to fund or close don't line up. This for a seasoned investor doesn't usually happen just because, if you know how to get hard money, if you know how to get private money. Now, if you're trying to get like a conventional loan and they want to close in 14 days, yeah, that's not going to work. So again, you can see it's kind of about the partnerships that you have, not so much like what is the deal, but or what the lead is, what kind of deal would it be, but can you close on it or do you want to? So I say, you know what? Every time the phone rings, that's a hidden opportunity for you to make money. So you don't have to buy the property to benefit from it. So every time that you have a motivated seller on the end of the phone sitting on an asset, even if the property doesn't fit your model, the investor who controls the connection controls the income. Okay, let me say that again. You control the connection, meaning you've been networking, you just haven't been sitting in your office, sending out flyers and, texting and whatnot. You are actually building this team, this network, if you will, of how the different ways you can monetize these leads. So you found it first. You've got the gold in your hand. Now you need to decide how you're going to market that, how you're going to make money off of it. So you could refer it, right? So you can reach out. Now, what I'm going to say to you is if you've never done this before with a realtor, don't go in there and talk about price and everything. First, ask them about how do you work with referrals, especially if you're not a realtor, right? Because realtors have all kinds of rules about how they can pay people and, that kind of thing. So you kind of want to work those things out first. So you want to connect the seller with the right agent, but only until you have something in writing that you're getting a referral fee. Because the last thing that you want to happen is that the agent, lists the property for sale and there's no paper trail that you were the one who brought that seller. You did the introduction, right? You could partner on it. So this is a lot of times what newer investors do. Like we do this with our students. We will partner with people, like if they're, to help them, like, okay, is it a flip? Is it a long-term rental? And you bring in an experienced investor who can fund the deal, who provides the money, and you share in the profit without using your own capital. So it's a great way for two things. One, to monetize the lead in a more lucrative fashion in terms of, maybe flipping it or turning it into a long-term rental or something like that, because you can always go out and let's just say it needed rehabbing, and then you're going to go in and you're going to purchase your partner with somebody where you can purchase it with their money, rehab it, all of that, and then you go in and you cash out, do a cash out refi. After all that, I'm kind of making it very simple so that you can pay them back, and then they get, interest, they get, profits because they lent you the money. Or you could list it. If you're a realtor and an investor, you could do that. So I could list my own properties, right? I could do that. I just choose not to. But you can connect the seller with a real estate agent for a traditional listing referral. Agents pay referral fees for warm introductions. I have also sold leads. So I will say I've got a lead, and I know it's a long shot that I'm going to make any kind of money on it. So I've sold, and you might see this from time to time I see other people on Facebook selling leads, right? So they have a kind of somebody that's called in, and they'll sell it for $100, $500, whatever. So there's different values that you can apply to it, but that's kind of something as you get more experience with this, you'll kind of have a feel for it and who will be paying you. And again, get it in writing when you can. And in writing can either be a text message or an email. You just kind of want something. You don't have to have a legal document or whatnot, but how are you going to get paid and where's the money coming from? So turning leads into referral income is one of the simplest and most overlooked revenue streams in real estate investing, because as investors, we kind of sometimes get caught up in the next deal, the next deal, the next deal, when we might have, 2 or 3 deals sitting that we're not going to purchase. They don't make a good long-term rental, short-term rental. They don't make anything for us, like for what we're doing, but for somebody else, they might. You don't need a license to do this. You don't need capital. You just need to be the person who made the introduction. So you're the seller, introducing the seller to the investor, and you could do wholesaling. Get with a reputable wholesaler, because that's a good partnership, and they'll actually help you run the numbers. You could do it with we've already talked about the listing referral fee, or you could just, outright sell it to another buyer, right? So you can do all these things to monetize those leads. Oh my goodness. Making sure I don't start choking up. So you become the connector, the person who bridges the motivated seller. Now, this does not work if you're trying to find deals off of, let's say, expired, right? You have to, first of all, I should have said this in the very beginning. The seller has to be motivated in order for this to work. If they're not motivated, as in they're not a foreclosure, they're not a probate, they're not they're not facing anything that's making them sell the property or wanting to, it's not really going to work because they're just going to wait you out to get as much money as they think, right? I mean, they might wait 2, 3, 4 years because for them, there's no hurry. And you've probably seen those people like, I've seen unexpired, houses have been on the market for 18 months and they don't want to lower their price. They don't, they just, when I say they don't want to lower the price, I'm talking about the sellers. They're not motivated. So you don't want to really spend a lot of time on sellers that aren't motivated. You're not going to make money that way. So that's why you have to know who's going to be motivated. And that is where I'm saying, like the foreclosures list, the probate list, the pre-probate list. Now, let's talk about investor networks. And I'm sure all of you, I should have asked, you should just drop it in the comments there. I know a couple of you are investors, but I don't know everybody. But, you have to become your own teamwork, if you will, your own network of different people that you need to help you do this, right? So first of all, you are going to need some, if you're not a realtor, or maybe you're like a realtor like me and you just don't have time. I do not have time to do listings. It's just not something that I just don't enjoy it. So I don't want to do it, right? But I have friends, I have tons of realtor friends that, they will list the properties for me all day long. The other thing, I'm a big believer in geography, being geography, I don't know what the right word is, competent. So I would not feel comfortable, trying to list a property out in West Texas because I'm not going to drive out there. I'm not going to do any of that. And I'm not as familiar with all the things that go on in West Texas. So that would not even be a good fit for me. But I have realtor friends that love to list properties out there. So for me, it's a time thing and also a big competency in the geographic area. So you want to like really partner with real estate agents, cash buyers. Did you notice that one of the lists that Foreclosures Daily has is cash buyers? So let's say that you've got, your phone is ringing off the hook because you are such a great marketer and you don't have any cash buyers. Well, you can always get a list from Foreclosures Daily. Now, it's pretty easy to get cash buyers list. If you don't, you can go on Facebook Marketplace and find cash buyers, right? There's all kinds of ways that we call it scraping for cash buyers. So if you don't have a list of cash buyers, people who are ready to jump on and they don't have to go and get a loan, they've got their money all lined up and they're ready to rock and roll. Rehab investors. So you need a steady supply of distressed properties with a lead where properties need, you like to rehab the property. And again, this takes time, it takes money. And if you're new to like flipping properties, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but you might want to partner with somebody who's done it a time or two, or partner with somebody who has their own crew. In all my years of investing, the most successful flippers that I have known, they have their own crew. They're able to control those contractor prices, and they have a working relationship so that they know that those contractors are going to show up, not steal their materials and things like that. And then landlords. So landlords are actually probably an underrepresented group of investors, and they are always looking for good rental properties. And right now, with the way the market is, I mean, it's shifting a little bit, but the data shows that more people are renting. And even if the interest rates came down a little bit, they're still wanting to rent. So renting is always going to be a thing in our country, right? Because people are mobile, they want to, they want to live in nice places. So rentals, so if you can get in with landlords, and there's all kinds of, and there's landlord groups on Facebook, there's networking groups, there's Meetup. So get in with some landlords. And the thing is that 2 or 3 landlords in your back pocket, if they can't buy it, I can guarantee you they will know another landlord. So you see how you build on it. And same with any of these. The realtors that, let's say in DFW, that, they'll tell me that they can do West Texas, but I know they can't. And so I'm going to like find out what realtor they would refer, somebody that I'm already working with, who would they refer? Same with cash buyers, because everybody can say they're a cash buyer, and that doesn't necessarily mean they have cash. It means that they know how to get the money fast, right? That's what that means. I mean, yes, they might have cash, but more than likely what it is they know how to close fast on properties. That's what you're looking for. Now, cash buyers, very interesting. If they are a true cash buyer, then they're probably going to want to keep all the deals to themselves, right? But the other thing with cash buyers is you want to make sure that they really are going to, you know, follow through and don't waste your time. Like if you've offered them a couple deals and they don't take the bait, if you will, they don't move or they don't, you know, close the deal, you just move on. They're not really a cash buyer. Same with rehab investors and landlords. So you really want to just build up your network, and it's your team. Now, cash buyer lists create opportunities. Your lead flow is their deal flow. Why do you think wholesalers are successful? The ones that are, and there's some successful ones. It's because they know how to source deals, right? They know they're very good at sourcing deals, and they probably make way more phone calls than anybody I've ever met. A lot of the successful ones make 100 calls a day. They are on the phone, right? Just doing it, getting their thing done and whatnot, and they'll find and farm an area just like a realtor would, right? They scrape the MLS and they really, if they know what they're doing, so cash buyers and wholesalers are really good resource for you to refer the properties that you don't know what to do with. So cash buyers can move leads quickly, right? So you get somebody on the phone, you go out, you make an offer, it's accepted, boom, you could be done with that lead in 14 to 21 days with a true cash buyer. Maybe a little bit longer if there's no title issues. You can create lasting partnerships. Don't you think that if you give steady deal flow to a cash buyer, their buddies are gonna say, or budettes are gonna say, hey, where are you finding all your deals? And they say, oh, Nancy, she's just a marketing machine over there, and she's like got these leads, and she's, and you're going to get a reputation for having good, solid leads, which is going to draw other cash buyers to you. And then monetize those deals that you personally cannot fund, right? You just, like I was talking about the $500,000 property. So let's say that, that $700,000 property that came across my desk, let's say that, the ARV was $850,000, but I needed to buy it for $500,000. There was $100,000, in rehab costs, and I could flip it and, make $200,000-$300,000. That's really not in my wheel well, right? I don't even feel comfortable. That gives me kind of giddy just thinking about those numbers. But some people love that, right? They're more kind of riskier takers than I am when it comes to those high-end properties. I love there's a new show I've been watching, or maybe it's old, I don't know, but they're in Hawaii, and they're on the island of Kilauea, or not Kilauea, that's where the volcano is. But anyway, they're flipping these houses, and they're the low price that they're buying them at is like $1 million, and then they're spending $250,000-$300,000 on rehab, sometimes more, but these are like $2.5 million properties, and they're even talking about, wow, I can't believe we spent that much money. I mean, yes, great, but then they have their own crews and they're on TV, right? So, and then there's partnerships. So I think this is probably where I have been able to make the most money out of leads that I don't know what to do with, right? Or I'm not going to buy, I'm not, what can I do with, is my partnerships. And really the partnership comes from, we're talking about partnerships in terms of networking, but partnerships where you and somebody else go in together. So a new investor can partner with somebody who's seasoned and has the money. You can even bring in a third person. You are going to want to make sure you put all of this in writing, like who's providing what, how's everybody getting paid, what roles and responsibilities, because it can get messy if you don't do that, especially if you're new. So you just want to have a sit down and talk with them. And this is always a good idea to do before you actually get the lead, so that when you get the lead, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to call so-and-so because I know that they have the money, they have the crew, or whatever. So what you're bringing is the lead and initial seller relationship, right? You've done the deal analysis, and you have the property knowledge. You have the time to do follow-up and coordinate, and you have market insight and creative structures. Maybe you have all of that, right? If you're new, you probably don't, but if maybe you're seasoned and it's just not something that you have time for, right? And then what your partner brings is the capital to fund the property purchase, rehab experience, contractor network, or they have their own contractors. They have established buyer relationships, so they know, that they can either sell this to someone else, if they're flipping it. Usually this works best on flips. I mean, I have seen it on long-term rentals and short-term rentals. It just has to be a pretty good partnership and has to be well documented in terms of like how this agreement, and at that point I would say you need a joint venture agreement. But together you close the deals that neither of you could do alone, and you both get the profit. So I think that's the main thing I want to leave with you. And why relationships are your number one asset. So first you have the lead, right? So you've got your network, you have agents, investors, cash buyers, service pros. And real estate is not a transactional business. It's a relationship business. Yes, we do transactions when we close, but when you think about all the moving parts of, whether you're rehabbing, whether you're, making a long-term rental, short-term rental, just think of all the people along the way in that process, right? So you're just one cog in the wheel, if you will. You got the lead, and to make it come to fruition, what are the moving parts, but what are the people that you need to make that happen? And can you do it all on your own? I mean, sometimes the answer is yes, I can do it all on my own. So you have to think like an opportunity connector. So the old mindset of most investors and realtors is either, can I buy this property or can I list it? Right now, most realtors will say, yes, I can list that property. If the answer is no, the lead gets discarded. One possible outcome, one chance at income. Where if you start thinking like more of a connector, and this can be second nature to you, you can, as part of your marketing, not only are you marketing to the leads that you're getting from Foreclosures Daily, but you should be, connecting on a weekly basis with realtors, cash buyers, maybe, set a goal for yourself that you're going to meet like, 3 to 5. Whenever I go to a networking event, I always say, I'm looking for lenders tonight, or I'm looking for contractors, or whatever it is. I have a set goal when I go out networking. So every lead becomes a starting point. You see multiple paths to income, whether it's referrals, partnerships. The mind shift is the foundation of building real income, more income streams than just purchasing the property. Now let's just look at some numbers of how that would work. So building multiple income streams from leads. So investors who can control consistent lead flow. Now it can work if you're not very consistent, but consistency, we talked about this being relationships, right? So if you're inconsistent with your relationships, then you're not going to have very good outcome in creating income streams, right? So let's just talk about referral fees. So I have earned referral fees anywhere from $500 to $2,000 on up, right? Just depends on how I structured the deal. Was it a listing agent? Was it, did it list? Is that, did I just, most of the time, like with a realtor, you might earn like a 20-25% referral fee on their side of the commission, right? You could do a partnership split where you get 25-50. So when I partner with wholesalers, I do 50-50, right? I bring the deal, they get the buyer. That's what I do, right? And so even though I could list it, I could have a realtor list it. I generally make more money from a lead that way when I partner with a realtor. Assignment fees, same kind of thing working with a wholesaler. You could actually have, let's say it's a little bit more difficult. You need the wholesaler to come in and help you negotiate. So maybe you're not going to get as much. And it probably depends on what the end price that they get the house under contract, right? So if they got it under contract and you're, making more, like I've seen some assignment fees. I haven't ever had this happen, but I've seen assignment fees of up to $50,000, right? So, and then it's all about the repeat business, right? So if you start working with people, what's going to happen? Remember on one of the webinars, I talked about my referral business. And when I'm saying that is I'm saying when people know that you buy properties and they know what your buy box is, and they know that you show up and you take care of business, then you get referral business, right? You get opportunities to make money. So each income stream multiplies the value of your existing lead investment. You're already paying for that list, so why leave money on the table? So what could that mean for your bottom line? Well, here I just want to show you, like if you're, let's say you just do 2 agent referrals a month, so you can make like about $2K. You have wholesale assignments. You know, you can make 5K, and these are all, you know, kind of an average of what I've done over the years. You could sell them for investor leads if you did 5 a month, buyer referrals. So you can see this just kind of gives you a visual of how you can make money, right, on those leads. And then the system behind lead monetization. Now, okay, you do have to have a system, a process. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be an Excel spreadsheet, right? You have to have consistent leads. So where do you get those? You get those from foreclosuresdaily.com. Now, you can do other ways of getting them, but if you want a reliable list that you get every week, every day, you know, whatever type of list that you're getting, though, you're going to get the consistent leads. And then you have to also have a relationship network. You know, you're out there, you're building your network of realtor people and contractors and cash buyers and all the things that we talked about. And then you have to have a follow-up process. Now, sounds like a lot of work, but you know, you don't have to have hundreds of cash buyers. You know, if you had 10 to 15 good cash buyers on your list, that's all you need. If you had 2 or 3 realtors that you refer, think that's all you need. You don't need hundreds and hundreds of relationship networks. What you need is deal flow, right? Deal flow, deal flow. So you have to have a consistent lead source. That's foreclosuresdaily.com, a relationship network, which we've been talking about, and then the follow-up process. So just to give you an idea, what I do is I'm very simple. I have a Google sheet that I put everything in. I know when I email people out. I know I do a lot of email. I will phone call or whatnot. And about once a month, I'll just have touch base, right? Okay, how are we doing? You know, hey, I got these leads, or they'll check in with me too. So it's just people know, they start knowing your reputation, right? Here's just another graphic of showing like what you could be doing like in 11 months. So if you just start here at month 1, you know, when the phone rings, every time the phone rings, that's money knocking on the door, right? It's money. So look at how you could scale your business, right? So if you paid, let's say you paid $1,000 for Foreclosures Daily leads. Well, you can see within, let's see, when would you make that back? By month 3, you're already exceeding that. You've already paid for it, right? Because usually the $1,000 is going to get you about a year, give or take. And then by 1 year, look how much money you could make. Now, again, this takes work. Remember, we talked about you have to take action. You can't just purchase the list and let it sit and then, you know, not do anything with it. And so where many investors miss early opportunities is the best leads appear before the competition even knows they exist. And that is why I focus on the pre-probate, because I have found over the years that, yes, there are other investors that work those leads, but not as many. There's a lot of, if you look at how many people go after foreclosures, because they're the low-hanging fruit, tons of people, you know, market to probate leads. And then there's pre-probate, tax liens, you know, I've already talked about that. So there's ways to get in the door, get your foot in the door, so to speak, but you have to kind of know which property leads to go after first. So competition drops the earlier you engage. So look at this. So if you're doing auctions and REOs, because what happens? The bank contacts a broker, and that's what they do. They already have established realtors. So if you're trying to get into auction and REO, or if you've ever been to an auction at the courthouse steps, it's packed with realtors. I mean, so you are really in a lot of competition for properties there. Then you get into, we talked about price reduction and expireds, okay? So a lot of people, that's what they go after. They'll just look at that MLS and they'll keep beating that door for those expireds, but that doesn't mean they're actually motivated, right? Active marketing listings, you know, waiting for a real estate agent to put a listing out. I love it when it says, because you can actually do a search for handyman special or needs work or whatever it is. And do you think that I would be the only one looking for that property? No. Every investor that's out there, they're going to be, so these first 3 things are what everybody goes after, right? Foreclosure filing, not as much, but still more. But look at this, pre-probate, the leads, because it's just saying that, number one, personally, when I try to tell people what I even do, with their eyes just glass over. And you can go back, I've done a couple of webinars for Foreclosures Daily. They don't understand the process and the opportunity that pre-probate leads give. And I won't go on about that anymore because, but I find it very interesting that people kind of glass over because they're like, what? Because they've heard of probate. Everybody knows what that is, but the pre-probate's a little bit different. So this is a very messy slide. I debated whether or not I was going to throw that in there, but it's kind of like, if you like flow charts, it's not really a flow chart, is it? But putting it all together, your lead action plan. Like I said, you have to take action. You can't just put out your credit card and buy the leads and then, hope you're going to make money. Even if you sent out a letter or two, yeah, the phone's going to ring, but you have to take action, right? You have to have negotiation skills. You have to have people skills. You have to build your network. So every lead that comes off your Foreclosures Daily list deserves a deliberate next step, right? So, can I buy it? Yes or no? How can I close it? You should always be asking yourself, okay, at the end of the day, when that phone rings, if you're not going to buy the property, how can you monetize the lead? How can you monetize the lead? And that's what we're kind of talking about tonight. So the income potential is already in your list. You're already paying for it, right? So this number here, and I can tell you this because I've worked with different people, but 80% of leads are not worked the way they should be. Just because you send out a card or a letter or postcard one time does not a lead list make, right? You didn't work it, okay? So remember in the beginning I talked about how Foreclosures Daily gives you that 6th step, because it's very rare for somebody to call you off of one postcard. It happens, but not everywhere. 3 times more potential income for people who work the leads and get referrals. And there's usually about a 15% conversion rate. So think about this. For every 100 leads that you're doing, all you have to do is convert 15 of them to make money, right? So I think you could do that. That's, give a couple to realtors and that kind of thing. Just have a process that you're keeping track of. So here's the takeaways for tonight. I want you to realize that every lead that you do, whether you think it or not, has some type of value for somebody out there, right? That you really need to focus on only on marketing to your Foreclosures Daily's lead, but also to build that referral network now. Don't wait until the phone rings, start doing it now and have a simple follow-up system. I mean, maybe you're a techie person, you have a CRM. I'm not, so I use Google Sheets, I use Excel, a very simple system. Go upstream on your list, prioritize pre-probate and early stage leads from Foreclosures Daily, and segment your list when you get it, and stack your income streams like referrals, partnerships. And you can do all of that when you segment the list. If you know that you're not going to be buying, 350,000, 400,000, 500,000, there's a whole way to market to those leads and be able to monetize them. Now, I wanted to be able to give you guys something. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. So if you want, this is free, scan that QR code, but get the Motivated Seller Lead Conversion Blueprint. This is actually a guide that Kelcie and I put together, and it's an action guide of how to work these leads. And it's very generic in terms of, it's not just pre-probate or probate, it's any seller. We wrote it in a way that if you're doing foreclosures or you're doing probate or whatever, but it's a way for you to, there's some plug and play scripts. They're not, some you can kind of, what I want to say, revitalize them or whatever. There's a simple follow-up and tracking plan, and everything that we put in there is kind of how we do our thing, right? So you can, if you want to put that, what is it? Well, there's a QR code that'll take you to the page to put your email in. You do have to put your email in, and then we'll send it to you. You'll get an email right away with all the information that you can download. And I think it ended up being it's not just one page, it's like 7 or 8. So, and I just want to say thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thanks for watching. And I'm wishing every single one of you a lucky, joyful, and prosperous St. Patrick's Day. May your lead list be long and your referral income be green. So, and then next month we'll be back, April 21st, beyond marketing basics. So I'll really get into some marketing techniques and things that we do. So, Kelcie, do you see any questions there?
No questions yet.
Okay, we'll give everybody kind of couple. How do I stop the share? All right, I'm going to do no questions. None. I know y'all want to get out of here and
Oh,
green food.
couple questions.
All right, here we go.
So Anne said, would you give an example of what you say when you call the pre-probate initially?
So, good question, Ann. So, what I do is I do not call the pre-probate. I did used to, but I got called a lot of names. So now what I do is I send out a couple of things. I will show you exactly what I do. So one is I send out, I don't know if you can see this. I send out note cards. I have two things I do. I send out note cards and then I send out postcards. So the postcards, they both basically say the same thing, that I'm interested in your property at 123 Main Street. If you're interested in selling, please call me. And interestingly enough, we did a A/B test. Kelcie and I did. So it used to be we sent out the note card, and I have a mother in our neighborhood, not my mother, but a mother in our neighborhood. She writes the cards for me. And then I was like, okay, we're sending out more cards, and I want to. And the most expensive thing about marketing, it's not the buying the Foreclosures Daily list, it's the postage, right? Because I think the first class stamps now they're like, I want to say like 78 cents. So if you're doing 10 or 100, that's, I mean, I drop a chunk of change on postage. So then I thought, you know what, I'm going to do postcards. So we did two different postcards, same message, but one postcard had our picture on it, right, of Kelcie and I, and the other one didn't. And interestingly enough, we got more calls from the one that had our picture on it. Same message though. It just says if you're interested, and we made them kind of like the ugly. They're yellow and red with black writing, and then they have a picture on it. It's probably Kelcie because she's quite quite the charmer.
Okay, and the other one is I have a lot of trouble in my state because agents cannot take a lead from an investor and give referral compensation. Do you have any advice with this? I even have suggested a referral fee in the form of like an Amazon gift card or a gift gesture rather than actual money, but it's still against agent ethics.
Yes. Okay. So then what you have to do, so sometimes the way I've gotten around it, number one, it's kind of an education thing too. But they could pay marketing dollars. They could just put it in as marketing because unless it's tricky because if they don't really understand the investor, realtors are like the hardest people to work with sometimes. And I'm saying that because I am a realtor. And so they kind of get hung up on the commission thing and, having it be a certain way. So the only way to really get around it is one, have an understanding with the agent. And if they're a broker, the broker can pay a marketing fee. All right. So the broker, but what happens with the realtors that have a broker, that anything that they pay has to come from the brokerage, right? Because they don't actually own the listing. So if you have wholesalers in your state, I would almost say either one of two things. Because you're saying only for listings, right? I would see number one, if you can't do that at all, then I would get your license and list them yourself, or partner with somebody that you can, because there's investor friendly realtors. So if you have, I think you need to kind of seek investor friendly realtors out.
Um, why can't you get a referral fee? It doesn't have to go through the trans. Oh, I don't know if that was back to the other one. A homeowner is deceased, right? So who do you mail to and how do you skip trace family members when you don't know their identity?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So I'm going to kind of break it down because it's actually multiple questions. So the first thing I do on pre-probate. So pre-probate does not have the personal representative, right? So when you get a probate list, you have the attorney name, you have the personal representative, whoever's handling the estate. Pre-probate, when the list comes, it only has the deceased names. I don't know if they're married or. So we just mail to the Smith family at the property. So whatever will say, dear Smith family, we're interested in buying the property. I don't even use their first name. I don't say anything about, oh, I saw you, were deceased or anything like that. Then if I need to skip trace them, there's a couple ways that I can do it. So I would only skip trace, like, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this came back, right? It was undeliverable. So as
Your audio went out.
there, how's that?
Yeah. Start back
Okay.
at
Oh, I
winning
hit the
the letter.
button and it was, yeah. Okay. So I don't know where I stopped at there.
When you held
So,
up the letter, the letter.
oh, okay. I held up the letter. It came back. So to skip trace this, you usually have to get, as a realtor, I have resources that I can skip trace. And I also, as a prior property manager, I have subscriptions to skip tracing companies. So you can, there's all kinds of companies that you can, pay to do actual skip tracing. But through property records, like what I try to do is go through the property tax records, any public records I can find first. But as far as skip tracing, I usually farm that out.
And that we're caught up.
Okay, then. Well, I have 5 till 6, Kelsey. What do you have?
Yep.
Okay. Well, everyone, top of the night to you. If you are going out there and drinking, who drinks green beer? Drop it in the comments, right? So Kelsey and I will be back on April 21st. You can always email me at nancy@moneymakingmamas.com. Give us a follow on Instagram. You can also reach out to me through your Foreclosures Daily representative. They have all my contact information as well. And Kelsey, thanks so much for your time tonight, too.
Thank you.
All right. See y'all later. Have a good one.